Well, hello and welcome to another edition of History and Whatever. And I'm sitting here and I was scrolling through TikTok and we're going to do a little whatever and history, strangely enough, because as I was sitting there, uh, I started to realize something about what's happening because, I was making some tea and it's good tea. And I could use a little tea. You know, we've talked about tea before, and it's like cultural significance. But the tea of today's world seems to be something like TikTok and Twitter, and I thought it interesting to bring up a certain point that we are now living in a full historical monument. The time that we're living in now, in things that are really coming into fruition these days, the incredible dissemination of information by all parties who wish to do so. This is something completely unprecedented in the world. I mean, as far as we know, right? And we all seem to be a little leery of the future. At least a lot of people in my generation, it seems, because, I'm 34 at the time of this recording. So I got to see, I was born in 88, right? So I got to see things before the internet. I got to see some progression of some of the things, the analog days. I got to see some of that, Going to the video store. I remember when DVDs started becoming a thing. I remember they used to show big ass laser discs in my school and show us some lame movie, and it took like 8 laser discs or something. There's like huge as records, and now we're doing this. We've even moved beyond CDs and DVDs. They're a thing of the past. Look at where we are in the future. This is something that always kind of strikes me as interesting, and I'm not sure that a lot of people really stop and think about how far we've come in such a short time span and what that does to us as people. Won't you come with me? And I'm going to walk you through the ramblings of a madman, James Manning III. And that's what we're going to do today. I'm just going to go over a little bit of some of the things that I think are history in the making because they're bothering me. It's so strange. I mean, I came up in a world where one of my favorite movies growing up as a younger child was Terminator 2. And of course, once the first Terminator wasn't really available to me, but Terminator 2 was. And like later on, of course, I saw the first Terminator, and it's great. I still enjoy both of those movies, but it kind of weirds me out. That was some of these things that used to be like fiction have really come true and or are in the processes of coming true. And of course I know that some of the people who've made movies like this like had the vision or knew kind of, they've been in the modern world or whatever, but there are some things that are just a little too creepy for me. Uh, One of the weirdest things that I have come across on TikTok was not one that was sponsored. I mean, it was one that was sponsored because usually I just skip right through them. But this one in particular was a sponsored TikTok video for an AI app that sends you text messages and talks to you. And I just really, for some reason, that stopped me, and I had to like watch it for a little bit until it creeped me out. It creeped me out. Oh, it creeped me out. Because I just thought about that. I was like, that's really interesting and sad and scary. Absolutely terrifying. That this is where we've gone to me. I find it fucking terrifying that people are so disconnected from community that this is an option for people. And that's the sad part to me, is that there are people out there that are lacking community so in such a bad way that an app that texts you is your option, and I kind of get that. Maybe I could see that. Man, it'd be cool to be able to just turn that fucker on anytime you want and just be like, oh yeah, text man, and you can just act like you're texting somebody. Maybe that's what it's really for. But I just wish it makes me wonder about human community. And how are we going to spread the word other than on TikTok videos? I mean, because when you get on there are things that happen that it's like I'm always looking for the funny. I mean, I'm a comedian. I want to see the funny. But something that's kind of one of the reasons why I want to start this podcast too is because people are interested in history. And there's this woke ideology out there, okay? It's like wokeness, woke people, and it's like I can't believe that there's actually a word now emerging for people who are becoming aware of other things in our universe and getting away from this very self-centric, earth-centric, United States-centric idea, and that there are people on there who in their own language and way of speaking are able to disseminate this incredible information worldwide to anybody who happens to run across it while they're scrolling on an app. Because I watched this gentleman describe to me in very good and real way that made me think that, man, he really had something to say about dimensions and beings that exist in other dimensions that are close to ours, but or other planes of existence. And there's somebody who's describing, people, spirits that might be trying to help you, or people, these entities that exist in dimensions other than our own that we cannot see, but they can somehow sense or notice us in a way. This is wild shit to me, and I think that most people maybe just go through that stuff and just like blah blah whatever, I don't know. But I sometimes find myself captivated, and a lot of times I don't allow myself to say no right away because I kind of want to hear what they're saying. I think it's important that I hear what some of them are saying. I mean, because there's other times when this happens, and it's really strange that, like, the dimensional ones, because I want to hear that stuff. I like the idea, the philosophy. It's not to say that I believe every word that some people say, not at all. And I'm not sure where their knowledge comes from or how they came about it or if they just made it all up. But I like to listen, But as you're going through there, I mean, I've seen just like women in Iran talking about the troubles that they're having over there right now and how they need people to pay attention and help support them in their causes. And then you flip, and you might see one of these folks talking about dimensions, or anything can come up on there. Or you flip through, and there's somebody talking about the history of the Moors. This information that I had never heard before. And you look around, and it's great. Because there's things that are being uncovered that it's like, oh, I had no idea about any of this. And a lot of information from indigenous and folks of all around the world. And some I've seen things from Africa. And it's so cool. I mean, this rapid dissemination of information is showing us soldiers fighting in Ukraine and a dude who is teaching the ninja martial art wearing a red cape. You just have to wonder, like, what is really going on here? Like, we are witnessing a historical time for us as a people. This technological advance that we've seen over the last 30 years has been so exponential that I don't think that we as like, I don't think we understand the power at which we carry around with us. And I especially think that most people don't know about the history enough to care about it. Because these are technological advances that have come through very quickly. To the point where people don't even consider things like books and pencils and fire technology. But they are. And a lot of those, I mean, I guess this is the natural progression of things, right? As you get better, it gets better exponentially. You're always going to get better faster. But you've got to consider within the last 100 years what we've been able to accomplish. There's no way that human or species evolution can deal with this, what we've done in the last 100 years. Things don't move that quickly on a scale of adaptation. And things are going to come and go very quickly now as this continues, right? It just makes you wonder, like, what really lies ahead for us. Because there's this crossover that I'm seeing now of people who want more history. And they've figured out that history that they've been taught is not really the truth. So there's more and more of technology bringing history to the people. And why? Why is history something that people are so interested in? I mean, now we're at the core of what I'm wanting to talk about. And I don't know that I'm not really sure that I have a point to this. Other than I'm seeing that history and technology are super entwined. As technology advances, history and the study of history and the understanding of history and the recording of history, they are super entwined. And it's becoming more and more apparent to me because these programs are becoming more and more popular based on the fact that people want to know what happened. Because this is a part of human beings too. Storytelling, art, journalism, I mean, as long as there's been humans, there's been humans to tell other humans what they saw. And some get very good at this. Right? The natural progression of things to where now, I mean, there's incredible journalism that's going on out there and absolute garbage, uh, straight out of the purse journalism. I'm not really sure what to call it, but they're just kind of a corporate journalism that do what they're told to write about. And then you have people who really, just like the embedded journalists and combat journalists of old. A lot of times these combat journalists were just people who happened to be stuck there and wrote it down. Think about that. So in the First World War, I mean, I don't know how many people really know about the First World War. It feels like people talk more and more about it as time goes on for some reason, but I remember when I was a kid, you only heard about the Second World War, and you only knew that there was a first one because there was a second one, but you never really even looked into it until you saw some sort of movie talking about First World War or whatever. It just wasn't publicized, You had to look into it if you wanted to learn something about the Great War. And I totally went on a very deep and long rabbit hole into the First World War to the point where it drove me a little bit into madness and gave me sort of a breakdown, because you really will uncover some things about that war that is just absolute, the most horrific things that could be imagined come out of the First World War. And not to say that, the Second World War didn't have its share of that. But the reason I think that the First World War is sort of forgotten and left alone in mainstream thought is because it just had nothing to publicize. Even though we kind of came out on top because of our ability to sell weapons and goods to the people who need them. And, well, we got involved. And we lost a lot of people, like, real quick. And a lot of people, I mean, if you really want to get down to it, the mass population of the United States probably knew someone who went away to the war or died in the war, and a lot of them that came back weren't the same. And think about the fighting in the trenches like that. I'm sure that of course, has been shown that this leaves psychological scarring on people. And what that, it brought back, that amount of trauma to whoever is experiencing them after the war. And I think that it just left a mark on a lot of people, on a whole country, on our country, even though it was overseas. And the same was done for everywhere over there affected by the war, so pretty much the whole world, I mean, there's very little of the world that wasn't affected, it was like the modern developed world was in on it. The First World War was an estuary between the way the world had been for so long, ruled by the sword and royalty, had growing pains, I guess is how you would say, to spur the birth of the Industrial Revolution, the real birth, where entire nations start to mobilize to make sure that they can handle the industrial need. And you just have technologies that are going in and out of usefulness, mainly horses. Horses have been a part of human evolution since the beginning, and now, in 1914, it took them the entire war to realize that horses are just obsolete. And the throwing waves upon waves upon waves of men at something, and just making sure that they go and die by their honor, this no longer works anymore either. This is the progression that we saw in a very short period of time. You know, the build up to the conflict, of course, is showing, you know, changes. Their vehicles, they're very scant, but they're around. You know, technology is starting to take off with engines, and you know, we've already been working with steam for a while. You know, but you get into a war where there are just so many having to go up against new things that have never been seen before. And a lot of times these guys didn't know what to do with that. They didn't know what to do, and they just kept throwing the old style at everything, which resulted in immense casualties, absolute breaking of mental abilities in people, the breaking of mental abilities. Your mind can be driven from you if put in these conditions. This is what the First World War taught us. I mean, amongst other things. But the idea of history and technology being eternally linked, I imagine it's sort of like DNA strands where everything just kind of is helix shaped and it's all connected, moving all once up through the time span that we have on this material plane. It's very confusing to me to live in this time. So confusing. I don't know what to believe anymore. You know, I hear so much stuff. There's an ice wall that we can't get past, or there's, well, you know, the world's flat. Well, is it, or is it just beyond the ice wall? It's around it. You know, there's just crazy, crazy stuff out there that I've never heard before. But there's also stuff that I've seen like back in the day, but you only see it one time, like on TV, and then they're showing it again. Guy like using Tai Chi and just throwing people around and showing demonstrations, and it's so hard to believe. It was like done on old tape, so I don't know. Maybe it's right. I don't. There are things out there that are beyond our understanding, and there are things out there that people just refuse to believe, or maybe they're just not woke enough to understand. I hate that word, by the way. Woke. I don't hate it because of what it represents. I like it in that way, but I hate that it's slang, and it's like, what level are you being awakened on that you think you're woke? I mean, I've learned a lot of stuff, and I believe a lot of things that maybe some people would disagree with. But, you know, I never considered myself woke, but I guess I am one of the woke ones. And I'm going to say that word a lot because I heard this thing where this guy he's campaigning. He's like, we must fight woke ideology and woke determination and woke this and woke that. And I'm like, wow, this guy is quite literally saying like nothing, and he's fighting a word. He's saying that people that are this woke stuff was. Who are you talking to? We gotta fight the wokeness. We have to fight the wokeness. No, we don't want any of this woke ideology, none of these woke terms. We will fight the woke on the beaches and in the air. We will never back down and never surrender to the woke. Wait, is that really his campaign plan for woke fighter? I'm going to put everybody back to sleep. I'm here and I'm campaigning because I want to make sure that we can all go into cryostasis, and then we'll only be revived when our particular jobs are needed, and then that way we don't have to reproduce but asexually, and we can create everyone out of clones. And I think once we are a completely cloned society, we'll have absolutely no problems, and especially if we have a problem with you, we'll just never unfreeze you and you'll die. But we'll still use your DNA because we'll just let you freeze. I don't know. Okay, I don't know what's going on out there. It's wild, but it's history that we're witnessing. Uh, and I am continuously amazed by the things that come across my vision on the internet. You can find anything you want, but there's just so much out there, and we humans on a mass scale globally have access to this information. Who knows what's going to come next? I don't know, and I don't pretend to know. But I do kind of see a trend happening. And as technology increases and humans progress along with it, our history will be completely entwined with it. And the one thing that kind of concerns me is that at one point, what will happen? Will history continue? Or will technology take over that role? Do we even exist then? Is technology truly progressing so quickly and to a point, and we're building it that it's going to make us obsolete? I mean, I'm not ready for that because I still own a lot of DVDs. You know, they're like books. They're like books now. DVDs are like books, you know? People used to watch DVDs. It's like people used to read books. Okay. Well, I just wanted to do this little, you know, tagline because I felt motivated to do a little bit on this and maybe give you a little bit of insight into why I'm doing this. I find history exhilarating, depressing, hilarious, intriguing, exciting, uh, because you can learn things about the past that help you in your life. And if not help you in your life, you can learn things about the past that will just shed some light on why things are the way they are. Have you ever looked at a building that has someone's name on it and wonder who that person was? Go find out. That's what history's about. History is there for us to observe it and to try to understand maybe what was going on and help us to understand who we are and what was going on back then and how we're not that different because our evolution has come a long way, but it has not progressed as fast as our technology. Maybe we don't need to progress because we've got technology. But that technology is so intertwined with our history, coming right up from the understanding of fire right into the phone in your hand. So think about that. History is fire and your phone. All right, everybody. Hey, I'm James Manning III, and I want to thank you for tuning in. And hey, send me an email at jm3e.pod@gmail.com. jm3e.pod@gmail.com. Hey, we'll see you next time. Thanks so much for listening.